A little bit better.
The Senate, one on the expansion of those direct payments from $600 to $2,000.
My computer crashed on me after that national thing. I'm not sure if it was
something related to online liability. The Section 230 he
to
always
what
talks
happened to
about.
my
That
computer,
as well is just procedural.
Part of my motherboard.
So what did the president actually get out of this?
To
be frank,
substantial damage to my Ethernet port.
Nothing,
so
really.
I'm running off Wi-Fi, so I'm trying to stream and do all this stuff on.
Has the president given any indication of where he is on this relief package?
Turn this one off.
He's given no indication at all, other than indicating that he is still sticking to his objections with this $900 billion coronavirus relief bill as it relates to those stimulus checks, and then objecting to some of the funding that's in the omnibus bill that's attached to this. We've been asking the White House every single day since the president made this threat whether he intends to sign it or veto it, and all we've gotten is no comments or we'll get back to you when we have something. You know, 5 days ago, Frederica, millions, tens of millions of Americans were under the impression that help was on the way in the form of unemployment checks, in the form of $600 stimulus checks, or in the form of the small business relief that millions of businesses across the country are counting on. And yet now the president has sunk all of that into limbo, offering no sign as to whether or not he will sign or veto this legislation or simply allow it to linger. And already we know that an estimated more than 12 million Americans, they lost their unemployment benefits, those supplemental unemployment benefits, this weekend because the president failed to sign this legislation just yesterday. We heard this morning from the Republican Senator Pat Toomey of the state of Pennsylvania. He was saying that while the president may be saying that he wants additional stimulus money, what he is risking here instead is leaving his time in office on a note of chaos. Listen.
As he leaves office, he will, I understand he wants to be remembered for advocating for big checks, but the danger is he'll be remembered for chaos and misery and erratic behavior if he allows this to expire. So I think the best thing to do, as I say, is sign this and then make the case for subsequent legislation.
You know, that motherfucker
and we saw those unemployment benefits lapse this weekend, but there are more dates still ahead. If the president doesn't sign this legislation by Tuesday, we will face another government shutdown, this time in the middle of a pandemic and an economic crisis that is really hurting so many millions of American families during this holiday season.
It's such a privilege to be the first, but I feel like saying what took us so long.
We need to feel the power of a movement that says.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the commercials down for you in here. I'm watching the generalized news because I'm just so fucking pissed off this morning, you know. Pissed off at these fucking piece of shit government officials that we elect in there.
In 2021.
Take our fucking money, have the best fucking insurance, the best fucking everything.
Let's talk about
and we're out here fucking suffering, and they treat us like we're fucking.
Trump is demanding Congress
pieces
revise to increase
like they're giving
the
us a
size
fucking breadcrumb because they give us $600 fucking dollars, and they're bitching about an additional $1,400. Yeah, I understand there's people out here that hasn't been separate from this fucking pandemic.
To do just that earlier. Senate Republicans
have
said that number is a non-starter. Meanwhile, unemployed Americans lost benefits as of last night because President Trump has not signed the bill. So what do you think is going to happen?
Our own property, our own other businesses. You know, I mean, I watched.
So this just shows the chaos of the whole thing. I was on a call with Secretary Mnuchin, and he had talked about getting to this point, having negotiated, presumably on behalf of the President of the United States. That was his primary breadwinner, and now they don't have fucking no money. None of us totally like the bill. It's the nature of legislating. You're not going to end up with anything perfect. But we passed it because this was the agreed upon number. It's what the president negotiated. And then for him to come out and say, now I'm going to veto it for the $2,000 checks, fine. If you want to make it $2,000 checks, negotiate that from the beginning. Let's have the discussion after this bill is signed, because right now we're at a point where people are left out in the dark. But to play this old switcheroo game, which is just kind of like,
I don't want your money.
I don't get the point. I don't understand what's being done. Why? Unless it's just to create chaos and show power and be upset because you lost the election. Otherwise, I don't understand it, because this just has to get done. Too many people are relying on this. We have worked hard. We should have had this done a lot earlier. And now to be put in a lurch after the president's own person negotiated something that the president doesn't want. It's surprising, but we'll have to find a way out.
And when you walk down the street in your district, you talk to your constituents who undoubtedly need help and ask, where are their checks? Where is the relief that you, Congressman, voted for? What do you say? How do you explain what the president is doing?
Well, I say what I just said. The problem is, in this day and age, the president can get on Twitter or make a statement, or the certain people can, and it just seems like it's all Congress's fault. Look, Congress ain't a pretty institution, trust me. Negotiations between people and sides that have big disagreements, it always ends up with something that's not pretty. But at the bottom line is that's the process of negotiating. And then at the end to say, okay, we've gotten to this after all this negotiation, now I'm just going to veto it and leave everybody in a lurch. The president then needs to put out his option. The other thing he's done is conflated two totally different things, the COVID bill and then the omnibus bill, which is just general government spending. This is money that would have been spent whether we had COVID or not. It includes things like foreign aid, but to then say that we're giving money to other countries in the COVID bill is disingenuous, and it totally conflates two different issues. And it doesn't do a service to the American people to explain what's going on and how these things
money overseas. Giving our money that they could turn around and give to us. Taking 10% or even 1% from the Pentagon bill and turn it around and give it back to the American people instead of paying for our government to continue to do what they've been doing for fucking 100 fucking years, which is steal from the American people and make their fucking bank accounts bigger and not care about fucking people that are at the bottom of the fucking barrel.
Is that okay for now?
When we think about what's okay, $600, why do we treat our people like that? We want to toss some crumbs and then ask and hope that people are loyal. Why is that even a question to give people $600? $2,000 is not enough. We talking about, we haven't had, some people didn't even see the $1,200, but for those that did, it's been months. And so when we talk about giving somebody $600, that's a slap in the face to people who are suffering. And let me tell you, when you're hungry all day. That's an every moment, every hour feeling.
So is President Trump right not to sign it?
President Trump, you know what? The fact that he cares more about Twitter and what Twitter thinks about making sure that people have food, that's what we should be talking about. Trump not signing it. It shouldn't be necessarily about the money, but I agree with the $2,000. It needs to at least be $2,000. So he needs to talk to his Republican buddies and say, give the people the money. Come on, Mitch, where is the money? Do that now. But instead, he's too busy worried about making sure that his friends get off, getting his friends out of prison. What we need to be doing is making sure that those 40,000 homeless veterans have a place to go. That's what we should be doing. We should be looking at cutting that Pentagon budget by 10% like it has been proposed to make sure that our veterans get the resources and our communities get the resources they need. That's what he should be doing right now.
Yep.
Not worried about Twitter.
We're going to bump the
Congressman-elect Bowen.
Pentagon budget.
So the House passed the HEROES Act several months ago, and we were talking about $1,200 checks, I believe, at that time. We need to be at $2,000 per month to meet the needs of the American people, bottom line. We need to continue the $600 per week unemployment insurance. The president is just posturing. He recently suffered a malignant narcissistic harm by losing the election. He continues to go to court to try to overturn the results. He continues to lose, and now he's posturing to make himself, to bring himself back as the hero of the American people, asking for $2,000. Mnuchin negotiated on the president's behalf for this $600. So initially the president was fine with that, and now he's trying to switch it up.
Real quick, do you think that Speaker Pelosi made a mistake in agreeing to this?
The American people need relief right now. So this bill was what we were able to come up with at this moment, but we need to go right back to the table to give people more in terms of relief. The president is the embodiment of everything that's wrong with this country. He's a privileged person who rose to power as a reality TV star, and now he's trying to drive this country into chaos. I can't wait for him to be out of office. And the number one thing is we got to win those 2 Senate seats in Georgia so we could take Mitch McConnell's power so we can properly govern for all the American people.
Yes, I agree. Mitch McConnell has rose to power.
This $900 billion bill that's sitting in Mar-a-Lago, and the president is threatening to torpedo.
And he
it's
has
a
done
big
nothing
coronavirus relief package, and what he is saying is Congress should amend it and dramatically increase direct payments due to Americans. Do you agree with the president? Should those payments be increased, or should he just sign it now?
For the American people. Now, granted, I am a Republican.
Well, so first of all, I think if the president thought that was the case, he should have weighed in 8 months ago.
He is not
We've been fighting for this since March or April, or at least 8 days ago, and not after they finally reached agreement. But sure, I mean, we have been pushing for a larger relief bill. Both Governor Whitmer and I, both the NGA,
all the
governors were pushing for help for state and local governments, which we're still not getting in this package. We'd like to see more help get out to the struggling small businesses and the folks that are unemployed and need this money desperately. But this took a long time, 8 months of dysfunction and divisiveness in Congress. There's plenty of blame to go around, but now we've reached an agreement, at least on something. It's not enough, but it's a step in the right direction. We need to get it done. Paycheck protection plan ran out in July. Tomorrow unemployment benefits run out. So sign the bill, get it done, and then if the president wants to push for more, let's get that done too. Let's work together in a bipartisan way. It'd be a great way for him to end the administration.
Governor Whitmer, you're nodding, not surprisingly.
I mean, Larry Hogan said it well. He was the head of the NGA. He's the one that convened all of our early meetings. He has been on the forefront on behalf of all the nation's governors. And while he's not our chair at the moment, he speaks, I think, in a way that resonates with all of us. He's absolutely right. Sign the bill. Get some relief to people. We have hundreds of thousands of people in my state who are at risk of losing their benefits today because of the Trump White House not signing this bill. The president needs to sign it. And if he really believes that we should get up to $2,000, which I have firmly believed for a long time, he should get back to Washington, D.C. and get that piece done as well.
I agree. I mean, I know some of this is old news, but I want the best for all the people.
Rejected the deal. They made the president their leader. McConnell, who, by the way, I don't think there's momentum for $2,000 within the Republican conference, but McConnell went ahead and gave him the deal that the president asked for anyway. Why is it being rejected out of hand? I don't understand.
That's really interesting. That is a really interesting insight, I think. And I think that part of it is the fraud of the voter commission. But okay, I hear you.
Right. I mean, voter commission, I don't know, Scott, you and I have talked about this. You say, well, why not just investigate? Let's just remember the Justice Department under Bill Barr has already dismissed these claims. The Supreme Court has multiple Trump-appointed judges as well as Democrat-appointed judges, GOP election officials, and multiple
Jim,
recounts and recanvassing.
I totally agree.
Right?
By the way, you're right. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, which is why I don't understand why the Democrats are rejecting it. If they were smart, they would take it, and it would give them another way to prove that Donald Trump's claims are crazy about the voter fraud. Again, it's a win for them on all three counts, it seems to me.
Except that it gives oxygen, right? I mean, he did this in 2016, by the way. But I do want to ask John Harwood for your view, because I wonder if it's a win-win-win for Mitch McConnell here, because one, you would let Loeffler and Perdue in those key Georgia Senate races vote yes on checks. That's popular. You would put Democrats in a bind where they might have to vote no because of these poison pills attached. And at the end of the day, you don't get these checks passed, $465 billion that Mitch McConnell doesn't want spent here, right? I mean, could that be the end result?
Jim, what Mitch McConnell is doing is what any babysitter does when they're taking care of a child who's blown a gasket and they're trying to run out the clock until the parents come home. In the case of Mitch McConnell, the parents come home in 3 weeks when Joe Biden becomes president. This is not about a serious attempt to make law, but I think it's important to point out that Mitch McConnell's behavior is not responsible for this incredible situation that we find ourselves in. The two parties believe different things. Mitch McConnell leads a caucus that believes in smaller government and lower taxes as much as possible. Democrats are more apt to use government to solve problems like this pandemic. Democrats thought that their view would be affirmed more emphatically in the election than it was. It was not. So this was the compromise that came out, was able to get signed, and Mitch McConnell played it pretty well to get the misbehaving child president to end up signing the bill.
Who the fuck are you?
Now, what's happening in this situation, while Mitch McConnell tries to run out the clock, Democrats are trying to use this to get an outcome that will improve their legislative position. That is to say, dramatize the contrast on $2,000 to win these two Georgia Senate seats. They understand that this is not about making law. You don't make law in the last 2 days of a lame duck session before you have a new president come to office. This isn't serious. This is a result of a president saying lunatic things.
I hear you that there's political theater happening here. But John, what about what Scott said? Why don't Democrats call Mitch McConnell's bluff and be like, okay, we'll go along with your phony voter commission thing. Give us those $2,000 checks. We'll vote for that.
I think Scott makes some good points there, but I think Democrats don't want to affirm the idea, which is not true, that there is voter fraud.
But there's
as
not.
Jim pointed out, we went down that road after the 2016 election. The whole thing was a joke. It was the president convened it. He was trying to prove that he got the most popular votes. He didn't. Nothing happened. On Section 230, I think Scott is right again that the QAnon stuff and the crazy, ridiculous conspiracy junk that is more common on the right than on the left would come off. But I think there are unintended consequences to any big change you would do in election law. Again, this is not a serious attempt to make law. This is the two parties positioning each other. McConnell trying to run out the clock with President Trump, Democrats trying to win these two Senate races, in which case they will be able to get a lot better legislative outcomes than they got in the COVID relief bill Trump just signed.
Listen, you both see through the politics so well. I think you've been around Washington for a little bit. It's good to draw on your wisdom. And we should note a big stimulus deal did eventually get passed and signed by the president, though belatedly on the weekend. So
right, I think, Jim, it's important not to forget, $900 billion is a lot of money, and there were a lot of valid public purposes that are advanced in terms of the unemployment benefits, the $600 checks, and vaccine distribution and advances in testing. All of that stuff, we shouldn't act like that's nothing just because the $2,000 checks aren't going to happen.
It's a good point. Bigger than TARP, right? You know, the entire stimulus passed after the 2008 financial crisis. Scott,
it was a good bill. It was a good bill, but the politics of this week suggest to me that if the president had gotten engaged earlier in the process, maybe the checks would have been bigger. But I just have to say, if you want $2,000 checks and you're a Democrat, rejecting the idea of linking these things out of hand strikes me as irresponsible. And so I don't know why they did it, but that's their choice.
Right. We'll be watching the politics. Scott, John, best to you and your families for the holidays.
You bet.
All right, so a question many of you probably been asking. We certainly have. Is 2020 the worst year ever? Pulitzer Prize winning Dave Barry, humor writer, has a few thoughts, and he joins us next.
But first, see how America's 39th president used his passion for music to win the 1976 election. The CNN film Jimmy Carter, Rock and Roll President, premieres Sunday night at 9 p.m. on CNN. Watch this.
One of the things that have held America together has been the music that we share.
Jimmy Carter used music in politics. It had never been done quite that way.
I want to introduce to you the Allman Brothers. He enjoyed our music and he became a friend.
He's a kindred spirit of a rare kind. A man you don't meet every day and that you're lucky to meet if you ever do.
Jimmy and I basically come from the same spot. When we went to the White House, we were welcomed in.
His love for music makes sense to me because music is the voice of the heart.
That was the music of change and dissidence. There was a risk politically to that, and it didn't matter to him.
I think music is the best proof that people have one thing in common no matter where they live, no matter what language they speak.
On CNN.
Being a supplier of Amazon, it's allowed us to grow as a company, allows us to hire more people from the community. Salem, Ohio is a small town USA. We've doubled our facility size. We've added a lot of new equipment into our buildings. We play a pretty big part of what Amazon is trying to do. I mean, it's amazing.
McConnell moves to combine Trump's ask and potential poison pill to stop stimulus. What's that about?
The leaders of our country, President Trump, President-elect Biden, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, are all in agreement. We have got to raise that direct payment to $2,000. So that is where we are right now in this historic moment. Do we turn our backs on struggling working families, or do we respond to their pain? So, Madam President, would the senator modify his request that immediately following the vote on the veto override, the Senate proceed to the consideration of H.R. 9051, that the bill be considered read a third time, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill without intervening action or debate. Further, that if passed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection to the request for modification?
Object.
Objection is
Of
heard.
course he objects.
The Trump administration's plan to distribute vaccines is falling behind, far behind. We're grateful to the companies, the doctors, the scientists, the researchers, the clinical trial participants, and Operation Warp Speed for developing the vaccines quickly. But as I long feared and warned, the effort to distribute and administer the vaccine is not progressing as it should. A few weeks ago, Trump administration suggested that 20 million Americans could be vaccinated by the end of December. With only a few days left in December, we've only vaccinated a few million so far. And the pace of the vaccination program is moving now, if it continues to move as it is now, it's going to take years, not months, to vaccinate the American people. Which brings me to the third thing every American should know. The Biden-Harris administration will spare no effort to make sure people get vaccinated. I've laid out 3 challenges in our first 100 days. One of them is ensuring that 100 million shots have been administered by the end of the first 100 days. If Congress provides the funding, we'd be able to meet this incredible
to make
goal.
money.
It would take ramping up
money,
5 to 6 times the current pace
I'm here to talk
to
to you
1 million shots a day.
in regards to political
But even with that improvement,
bullshit
even if we boost the
that's going
speed
on in
of
our
vaccinations to 1 million
country,
shots a
people
day,
that we voted into
it will
office
still take months to have the
that don't give
majority
no fucks
of
about
the
us.
United States population vaccinated. I've directed my team to prepare a much more aggressive effort with more federal involvement and leadership to get things back on track. We'll find ways to boost the pace of vaccinations. But as Dr. Fauci and others have stated these past few days, this will take more time than anyone would like and more time than the promises from the Trump administration have suggested. This is going to be the greatest operational challenge we've ever faced as a nation. But we're going to get it done. It's going to take a vast new effort that's not yet underway.
Senator Sanders, thanks for joining us. As you know, the Senate Majority Leader is now combining the $2,000 stimulus checks with two of President Trump's other demands, a repeal of internet regulations and a voter fraud investigation, even though there wasn't any widespread voter fraud in this presidential election we just had. What does that mean for millions of struggling Americans hoping for these bigger checks?
Well, look, Jim, there is a level of economic desperation in this country right now that we have not seen in our lifetimes. I mean, that's just the simple, painful truth. And that means that there are people by the millions who are worried about being evicted, thrown out onto the streets in the midst of this terrible, horrific pandemic. People don't have the money to go to a doctor. And we're seeing a record level of hunger in America now, where families are unable to feed their kids. That's the reality. Now, the House last night did the right thing. And what they did do is we fought hard to get a direct payment in the original bill, the $600 payment. That's not enough. We wanted more. And what the House did is they raised that to $2,000. What must happen now in the Senate, what I'm fighting for, is to make sure that that clean bill, the bill that was passed in the House, comes to the Senate. We voted up or down, and frankly, between you and me, I think we have the votes to pass it. That's what the American people want.
And Senator Sanders, President Trump tweeted today that unless Republicans, quote, have a death wish, they should approve the $2,000 payments ASAP, although, of course, he's attached these other demands to that. Do you fear that these repeated attacks coming from the president could torpedo his own push that you support?
Well, you know, as somebody who disagrees with Trump on everything, I got to say he's right on the need for this $2,000 check. And I hope the Republican leadership listens to him. And the other issues that are out there, do you think, Jim, that all over America people are saying, my God, we have to repeal Section 230 of the 1996 Telecommunications Act? My God, that is a major national priority. Nobody even knows what that is. And the other thing about voter fraud, you know, Trump keeps talking about how he won the election. Nobody in their right mind believes that. He lost the election. We can separate those issues. Do we want to take a look at Section 230? It's an important issue. Yeah, we should. There's a way to do that. Not now. How do we create elections so that everybody can find it more easily, can more easily vote? Do we do away with voter suppression? There are issues out there. We can discuss it. But right now, the issue on everybody's mind is, how do I survive? How do I feed my kids? How do I not get evicted? So what we have got to do is just demand that McConnell bring forth a clean House bill. The House did it, by the way. They did it in a bipartisan way. I think there were 46 Republicans who voted for it. Bring it to the floor. I can't guarantee that it's going to win in the Senate. We need 60 votes. I think we got a damn good shot to win it. Bring it to the floor for a vote, Mitch. That's what democracy is about. That's what our job is, to vote these things up or down. Let's get that vote.
You may have many reasons for waiting to go to your doctor right now, but if you're experiencing leg pain, swelling, or redness, don't wait to see your doctor. These could be symptoms of deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot, which could travel to your lungs and lead to a pulmonary embolism, which could cause chest pain or discomfort or difficulty breathing and be deadly. Your symptoms can mean something serious, so this is no time to wait. Talk to a doctor right away, by phone, online, or in person.
Yes, ma'am. It's good to be here at United Medical Center. You guys do such good work here. Thank you. Okay, let's do it. All righty. Ready? Done, ready. That was easy. Thank you. There's no bleeding. I barely felt it. Oh, really? I barely felt it. Awesome. I will just apply bandage. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Nurse Patricia. Thank you. Well, I want to thank United Medical Center for the work that you do in Southeast D.C., serving a community that is often overlooked. So it is good to be now been vaccinated, as Joe likes to say. There's a big difference between the vaccine and vaccinations. I want to encourage everyone to get the vaccine. It is relatively painless. It happens really quickly. It is safe. The Moderna, the Pfizer today, I had the Moderna vaccine. My husband is going to have it today as well. I look forward to getting the second vaccine. And literally, this is about saving lives.
Being a supplier of Amazon, it's allowed us to grow as a company, allows us to hire more people from the community. Salem, Ohio is a small town USA. We've doubled our facility size. We've added a lot of new equipment into our buildings. We play a pretty big part of what Amazon is trying to do. I mean, it's amazing.
For Megan Meyer, the stimulus checks and new unemployment benefits can't come soon enough. The single mother of two has been unemployed since the spring.
For Christmas, I had to count on people, different agencies, nonprofits, to help me be able to afford Christmas for my kids. I've had a nonprofit agency that paid my rent so that we can be afloat.
Megan and millions of other struggling Americans will soon get one-time payments of $600 each following President Trump's late signing of the stimulus bill. That $600 is for individuals earning $75,000 a year or less. Married couples earning $150,000 a year or less who file jointly get twice that amount. Families with children under 17 will get $600 per child. People earning $99,000 a year or more get nothing. The payments could increase from $600 each if Congress and the President agree to bigger payments for this stimulus bill. But for now, when can people expect to at least get that $600 payment?
It could take another week for people to start getting payments. Now, the fortunate thing is because they already have some things in place from the last stimulus payment of $1,200, they can quickly get out payments to people who have information for direct deposit.
Still, some may have to wait several weeks to get their stimulus checks. For the millions of Americans collecting unemployment benefits due to the pandemic, the federal payments they'll get will restart and last through March 14th. This time, the federal payment for each unemployed person is $300 a week, half of what it was in the last stimulus bill. That federal payment is in addition to the state unemployment benefits many are already getting. But because the president waited until Sunday to sign the bill, many unemployed Americans may get 10 weeks of payments instead of 11.
It's not clear if benefits will be payable for this week. There's a theory that maybe benefits can be payable this week. We're just not sure yet.
What about people facing eviction, like Lethea Andrews in Northern Ohio, unemployed since May, who's not been able to pay her rent for 3 months?
It made me want to cry. Because I'm like, I don't know where that's going to come from. Hello?
The new stimulus bill extends a moratorium on evictions, but only through the end of January.
Right as we head into the heart of the winter, we can't be putting people out of their homes, particularly when they have children. And we already know that a lot of kids are doing their schoolwork at home. So how will they do that? This is really a dire situation.
Michelle Singletary and other experts say it's likely that America will need another stimulus package in 2021. Singletary suggests that possibly focusing a future relief package just on food and housing security, even doing things like making direct payments to landlords who are also hurting right now. Jim, they're going to have to get creative with some of this stuff in the months ahead.
That's Congressman Louis Gohmert, who is suing Vice President Pence to overturn the will of the American people. And it's going to go before a Trump-appointed federal judge in Texas. Will this be dismissed out of hand, or is there any way that this gums up the works somehow?
This lawsuit is a crackpot lawsuit filed by a crackpot member of Congress, and it's going straight in the trash can. Don't know how fast. Maybe there's some preliminary step in which a Trump-sympathetic judge moves it along. But there is no scenario in which the Vice President of the United States of the sitting administration can, on his own steam, reverse the electoral votes of states that voted somewhere else. It's simply not the American system. But this indicates the lengths to which some members of the Republican Party are willing to go to try to either performatively demonstrate to Trump supporters that they're with them and willing to fight, to raise money from them, to gain a profile, or maybe some of them are actually crazy enough to believe that these things are possible, but they're not possible, and that's why Joe Biden's going to become president on January 20th.
And we should note that the judges for the dozens of cases that the Trump campaign already filed, whether appointed by Trump or Democratic president predecessors, almost universally, with one procedural exception, rejected these cases. I wonder, though, on January 6th, Brittany, all the president needs is for one Republican senator to join with congressmen like Louis Gohmert to gum up the works and require some challenges as those electoral votes are procedurally counted. What's the betting on that right now? Is there a viable Republican willing to stand up?
I mean, I think we've seen over the past couple of weeks Republicans like Mitt Romney willing to step against the president, of course, not the president's favorite Republican. But I think for every Romney, you're going to see one or two other Republicans in Congress feel that they are validated in standing up against the president. And just like John said, as more crackpot people come out, I think the reasonableists will have more of a voice and more of a coalition to say, we just really don't care. We want to kind of just get on with legislating. I think it's important to note this is all happening in the backdrop of coronavirus in these folks' constituencies. People are not just getting infected, people are dying. And frankly, Congress, even though their histrionics can be wild, they just want to get back to work at times. At least that's what we're hearing over here in Houston.
I want to get your reaction to the president's latest tweet. He said, unless Republicans have a death wish, and it is also the right thing to do, they must approve the $2,000 payments ASAP. $600 is not enough. What do you think? What's your response? I notice there are 5 Republican senators that have come out in favor of increasing the payment from $600 to $2,000, but you are among that's 5 Republican senators. You're among the 47 Republican senators that have not.
Well, that's right, Jake, and I'm not going to, because I think it's a very bad idea. I mean, let's be clear about what we're talking about here. We're talking about sending checks, the vast majority of which will be going to people who've had no loss of income whatsoever. That's just a fact. How and why does that make any sense at all? Oh, and by the way, when you bring this direct payment up to $2,000, the total cost is almost 2/3 of $1 trillion. It's over $600 billion, most of which, I mean, the vast majority of which will go to people who had no lost income whatsoever. This makes no sense. We're in a very different place today than we were back in March. And it was of dubious merit back in March, but then at least you could make the case that we actually had no economy. We had so completely shut down the economy that we were looking to send money as a substitute for the economy. Now, we've got a very different situation. The economy grew at 33% last quarter. We've got very acute problems within certain employment groups, right? People who work for restaurants and hotels and travel and entertainment, devastated. But we do not have a global macroeconomic depression underway at all. So it makes no sense to be sending this out to everybody who has a pulse. Oh, by the way, you actually don't need a pulse. Anyone who died this year, dead people are going to get the checks too. I wonder if it's enough stimulus for them. I mean, that's how ridiculous this is.
Well, I guess I have a couple questions for you. One is policy and one procedure. On the policy level, you would agree that there are still millions of Americans suffering, people who have lost their jobs, who have lost income, who do need help, what would be a better way to help those people? I mean, you've seen the lines at the food banks all over Pennsylvania, I'm sure.
So, Jake, that's where we should be targeting. And so a lot of the bill that we voted for overwhelmingly does, in fact, target those very people. It's PPP loans, right, which are really grants to small businesses, provided that they keep their workforce employed. So people would continue to have a job because of that money who would otherwise not have a job. There's a plus up in unemployment benefits for people who are actually unemployed. There's an expansion of the eligibility for unemployment benefits to include people like the self-employed and gig workers who've historically not qualified. Those kinds of things make a lot of sense, and we could have a debate and a discussion about whether we should do even more for those things. But when you're talking about the two-income couple who, let's say they both happen to work for the federal government, among the 2 million people who do, they've never had even an interruption in their
15 million
income.
people
They've had
that
no
don't.
lost income at all. And if they've got 2 kids, we're going to send them $8,000 of money we don't have? That just doesn't make sense.
If you work for
Okay, so
government,
that's the policy question. The
you don't get it.
procedure question is, do you think Senate Majority Leader McConnell should offer a clean up or down bill, up or down vote on this issue of $600 to $2,000? I suspect that he might be thinking about other ways to kill it, because I think he agrees with you, such as adding that, you know, the provision to get rid of Section 230, which provides immunity to social media companies from posts that other people put on their sites. I mean, wouldn't a clean up or down vote be the better way to at least legislate this, even if you vote no?
No, you don't want that.
So I don't think so, Jake.
Exactly.
The reason is
They
because
want
I
his
think
name
it
on
makes
there, then he
much
voted down.
more sense, and there would be
So
much
come back
broader
and bite him in the
support
ass later
if
on.
this is actually targeted to people who need it. As I say, we don't have this money lying on the shelf. We're either going to print this money or we're going to borrow it from overseas.
Don't
and
borrow
either way,
print
we
it.
ought to think long and hard about how we're doing this. When you know for a fact that the vast majority of it is going to go to people who've had no loss of income, I think that's indefensible. And so if there's a will to do more, then we ought to talk about how you do that in a sensible fashion where the money goes to people who actually need it. And we're not going to figure that out on a up or down vote that gets jammed in sometime this week.
So obviously President Trump says that your position is a death wish and the wrong thing to do. He also has been lashing out at Republican leaders for the vote to override the defense bill, calling House Republican leadership weak and tired. Now, a senior Republican told CNN that these rants are, quote, the ravings of a deposed king. How do you see these attacks on Republicans?
Look, I'm not very surprised about
We're just
tweets that are
with,
critical of
course,
people
I
who
don't
are
think
overriding the
anybody's watching,
president's
it's probably
veto.
just
He
me.
doesn't like that prospect.
I'm here to
I
just talk
understand
about
that.
this in general.
But I think
I
that
don't
the
want your
defense
sub, don't want
authorization
your
bill,
follow,
which we
don't
have
want
passed for 59 consecutive years,
none of that stuff.
I don't think
don't
anyone
want
ever
your money.
considers it perfect. It
The only
is
reason I got
result of a
followed only
legislative
on is because I
process,
kept getting
which,
a
by the
fucking
way,
bunch
this
of
administration was
ads
involved in.
put in on my
And the
chat.
president's big objection seemed to be the
if,
provision that is going to
you're in here,
require
you actually want to
renaming
talk,
of military
just whisper me
facilities that are
and
named
I'll
after
release the
Confederates.
followers only. But I have that on just
look,
because I don't want.
I think that amendment probably goes too far in the
all the
dynamic,
bullshit
but
coming
I
in
don't have a
here, and
problem
it's not actually
with
talking
renaming
about what's
military
going on.
bases against people who did not commit treason and take up arms against the United States. So I don't object to that idea.
I really don't like this
and
guy.
the idea
Pat
that
Toomey.
Section 230 should be repealed. Look, I think that's an
Pennsylvania
important,
Republican,
complicated
obviously.
issue. But that legal liability protection that we granted to these internet companies years
Need
ago
to get his home
really
address and
enabled
start sending him a bunch of our
spectacular
bills.
growth in a whole new industry that has done so much for our economy. Is it being
obviously
abused
he's
in
not
some
hurting the
cases?
money.
I think it is, actually. But I don't
Doesn't
think
know
we
what it's
just
like not to
decide
have the
one
money to
day
feed
to
your
throw it all out.
grandkids
I
because
think
their
we've got to
mothers
think
work
through
every day and
what are the
and
unintended
the money they make
consequences
is not
of
enough
that.
to take care
How
of their
might
bills
we
or
treat this in a more nuanced way than just completely repealing Section 230?
we are blessed. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're not. We have food on our table and the power's still on. But we do live month to month, and anything that happens
President-elect
can
Joe
happen
Biden
really
is
quick.
considering making cuts to
and
the
we'll
country's
be
nuclear
out on the street like
modernization
anybody else.
program,
So,
according to a transition team official. Biden is hoping to shift the U.S. strategy, putting more emphasis on arms control rather than enhancing America's current arsenal. CNN national security correspondent Vivian Salama joins me now. Vivian, good morning. This news comes as the clock ticks down on a critical Cold War-era nuclear agreement with Russia.
Morning, Bianna. That's right. So sources tell me that President-elect Joe Biden is considering reducing reliance and spending on nuclear weapons. And so folks at home may hear that and say, uh-oh, it's a dangerous world. Why are they thinking of doing that? But officials tell me that he really wants to place emphasis on arms control and not on developing these weapons and potentially having a threat. It's essentially a do as we do, not as we say. So the backstory of this program is that it actually started under Barack Obama's administration. It's called the Nuclear Modernization Strategy, and it was supposed to be enhancing and modernizing the nuclear arsenal that the United States has. Under the Trump administration, that ramped up significantly to the point that President Trump has advocated for the development of new modern weapons. He even went as far as to develop a land-based ballistic missile, which was very controversial. And that program is due at its current speed. It's due to cost the United States over the next 30 years over $1 trillion. And so President-elect Biden and his advisors are saying, listen, we got to scale this back. Obviously, we need a deterrent. We need strong nuclear program, but we can't also just let this become this bloated, uncontrolled program. And so obviously, this is something that's going to get a lot of pushback from Congress. A lot of hawks out there believe we need to develop new nuclear weapons. We need to have a strong program. And especially because, as you said in the beginning, 16 days after President-elect Joe Biden takes office, a very critical pact treaty with Russia expires, a nuclear treaty with Russia. And so a lot of people are looking at that and saying, what are you going to do next? We'll wait and see, Bianna.
Maybe I'll play some games. If not, I'm really upset about this stuff here. I'm really not happy with the way the government's treating our people. And I know not many people listen to me because I'm not a very famous person or very much watched other than the game I play. So, with that being said, we'll watch this.
Let's put our hands together, Antioch. At the Antioch AME Church in the Atlanta suburbs,
Now come on, put your hands together, family.
the Georgia Senate runoff is front and center. Christian groups determined to move the faithful from the pews to the polls.
So we want to be ready, church, because the whole world is counting on us to make the Senate blue.
At stake, control of the U.S. Senate. How important is the role of the church in these runoffs?
Oh, I think it is critically important. I think we saw in November there was a huge turnout among blacks, a surprising turnout for some. And I think the church played a major role.
It's important to note that we are in the South.
The black church is extremely strong in the South, and historically, the black church has led the effort for justice.
A passion the bishop believes will bring out voters for the two Democratic challengers.
And your standard bearers are the young Jewish son of an immigrant mentored by John Lewis and a black preacher who holds Dr. King's pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Hallelujah.
But this is the Bible Belt.
Right now, we're challenging our so-called evangelical brothers and sisters. We're challenging them to be better. We're challenging them not to hide behind something called pro-life.
And there is another major force of faith in Georgia's runoffs. This is Flat Creek Baptist Church, part of the Conservative Baptist Network.
We got a little election coming up. Vote Christian.
Head pastor, Reverend Josh Sethko.
We need to vote with the context of Scripture in our minds.
There's little doubt what that means to evangelicals.
I always vote for the candidate that most aligns with my Christian faith. And in this runoff especially, I'm voting for the candidates that are pro-life.
Reverend Warnock's pro-choice stance and his words from the pulpit, often taken out of context, have been the target of the fiercest Republican attacks.
Well, hello, Georgia!
Vice President Mike Pence has campaigned multiple times for Georgia's Republican senators, underscoring abortion.
David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler stand for the right to life.
A potent get-out-the-vote force for evangelicals, says this pastor.
I think it's advantageous for all of us followers of Jesus to elect people who represent our worldview.
You would like to see more engagement.
There's no doubt about it. We've become more engaged as a church family so we can make an educated decision in the voting booth, but also being framed through the scripture.
Amen.
Now, President Trump is scheduled to be in Georgia a week from today. It is a day before the Senate runoff election. And you get some signs from where exactly he is going. Dalton, Georgia. It is in a county that the president won by 70%. It is a reminder, Bianna, that this runoff, at least for the Republican side, is about trying to turn out the base here, white evangelicals among them.
Of course. Let 2 seats determine how those
and right now,
freaking
as our nation is in a period of transition, we need to make sure that nothing is lost in the handoff between administrations.
I'm for choice. I'm for whatever the person needs to have done. But we need to stand up as Americans
and our operations to deter our enemy.
Take care of ourselves.
We need full
Instead of these
visibility
freaking
into the budget planning underway
politicians
at the
that we
Defense
put up there,
Department and other
they have
agencies
no
in order to avoid any window of confusion or
They don't
catch-up
care. Their pockets
that our
are full.
adversaries may try to
Their
exploit.
bellies are full. Their refrigerators
As I
are
said
full.
from the beginning,
They get
we've
rent. They
encountered
don't pay rent.
roadblocks from the
Why
political
are we
leadership,
letting them
the
determine
Department of Defense,
how we
and the
live our
Office of
lives?
Management and Budget. Right now, we just aren't getting all the information that we need for the outgoing administration in key national security areas. It's nothing
I'm a
short, in my
Republican.
view, of irresponsibility.
But I am so ashamed
Finally,
in regards to how they are
we
treating
spoke about
the American people.
the day one challenge that we need to address immediately,
So
drawing on the skill set of the Department of
I'm
Homeland
all about
Security and the Federal
capitalism,
Emergency Management
making
Agency.
money, and
We were
having a good
briefed
life,
on the steps
but
needed
not
to
on
clean
the
up the
backs
humanitarian
of people
disaster that the Trump
that
administration
can't
has
stand up on their
systematically
own.
created on our
I
southern
am
border.
not about to give somebody a handout,
We will
but I will help
humane
you.
and
I will give
orderly
you a hand
responses.
up.
That means
That's to
rebuilding
teach
the
a man to
capacity we
fish,
need
not
to
give him a
safely and
fish.
quickly process asylum seekers.
Not give him
without
one meal,
creating
but teach him how to
near-term
rely
crisis
on himself
in the
to
midst of
create
this
meals for
deadly
his family.
pandemic.
And you can't
These
do
are hard
that
issues.
if they don't have a
And the
base.
current
It takes money to
administration has
make
made them
money.
much
If you
harder
can't pay your
by
current bills,
working to erode our
you're worried
capacity.
about what's going on
It's
in your
going to take
past, not
time to
looking towards
rebuild
your
that
future.
capacity. We're going to work purposely,
Mitch McConnell
diligently, and responsibly to
should
roll
be-
back Trump's restrictions, starting on day
I
one.
won't say what he should be, but he shouldn't be in the power he's in the position he's in. Because he doesn't care
The
about the
president
American people.
changed his mind last night after nearly tanking a deal which was negotiated by his own negotiators. The obvious question is why?
Yeah,
I don't know
Brooke,
what you all think.
It's been a bit of a head-spinning couple of days. As one person who has been in communication
So
with
be
the
it.
president over the course of the last week told me, just flat out
This is how I
head-spinning.
feel.
That was what he
That's
said,
why I'm on here
head-spinning
kinda
over the
ranting and
course of the
raving.
last couple of
Like I
days.
told
What
you
it
earlier, I don't
took,
want
according
your
to people who
problems,
were
I don't want
involved in
your
this
money, I
process,
don't want your
is a
stuff.
heavy
Give it
push by
somebody
some
else.
of the president's few
You're
remaining
here,
congressional
you're here,
allies.
just
That's
tell
Kevin
me how you
McCarthy, the
feel.
House Republican leader.
Talk
That's
to
Lindsey
me.
Graham, the South Carolina senator, and also, perhaps most importantly, David Perdue, the Georgia senator who has an extremely crucial runoff race in just a couple of
Tired of
days.
seeing
He
my
met in
family
person with the
struggle, tired of
president,
people,
spoke by
my
phone with the
friends
president,
struggle.
all of them urging the president
All
to
the
come on
kids,
board with this, trying to
grandkids.
emphasize his legacy, but also trying to emphasize the need
Let's
in the
get
economy
together.
right
I mean,
now
that's what
for
we,
this
the
money,
people,
the
are
need
for,
for
is to
vaccine
get
distribution
together
funds, and the need, as you
and
noted,
tell the
for
people
hospitals as
that
well.
we
I will
elected.
note the president is claiming victory
What the
because he
fuck?
got a few items here.
What's
he
your
says he's going to
problem?
introduce
Why can't you
a
fix
formal
this?
rescissions package
$600?
request. In other words,
Don't
trying
get me
to
wrong, I
impound some of
understand.
the spending that's in that
It's
bill,
a
the
lot
bill
of
that he
money,
called pork,
especially if you
which
don't
was,
have any.
frankly, what his administration had
It's a
asked
start.
for. That means nothing. He will be out of office before it could actually have tangible
I
effect.
barely-
He
that
also
doesn't
was
even
given
pay
two
my rent.
procedural votes in
That's
the
a
Senate,
half of my
one on the
rent.
expansion of those direct payments from $600 to $2,000, and one on something related to
And we
online
don't have kids
liability,
that
the
we
Section
claim. All my
230 he
kids are
always talks
grown.
about. That as well
So
is just procedural votes. So
how's it
what did
help
the
people
president
like me
actually
that's
get out of
disabled?
this? To be frank, Brooke, nothing really.
I can't file for unemployment because I'm disabled. I haven't got my disability because, you know, it takes forever to have to show
Has
this,
the president given
this.
any
But this ain't
indication
about
of
me. It's
where
about
he
the
is
people.
on this
It's about people that have
relief
problems. It's people that I want to get together We can yell and scream.
He's given no indication at all other than indicating that he is still sticking to his objections with this $900 billion coronavirus relief bill as it relates to those stimulus checks, and then objecting to some of the funding that's in the omnibus bill that's attached to this. We've been asking the White House every single day since the president made this threat whether he intends to sign it or veto it, and all we've gotten is no comments or we'll get back to you when we have something. 5 days ago, Frederica, millions, tens of millions of Americans were under the impression that help was on the way in the form of unemployment checks, in the form of these $600 stimulus checks, or in the form of the small business relief that millions of businesses across the country are counting on. And yet now the president has sunk all...
Because I am sitting here in my house shoes. I thank you for stopping in. If you like the channel, hit that like button. If not, I understand. Maybe stop by, see you later. But it would leave you with this. If you're not happy with what's going on in your life or what's going on in somebody else's life, try to make a difference. Stop sitting in there quiet. Stop sitting in the corner saying, oh man, I wish this would happen. Let's stand up together and make something happen. And pray in his name. Thank you, Lord, for blessing everybody. Please bless, protect, and overlook everybody that's watching and the people that are not. In your name we pray.